First of all, I think it's a great idea to talk politics in a bar on an early Saturday afternoon. It suggests to me a commitment to eventual drunkenness, even as you start out stone cold sober. As you can see, I am now 56 years old. And my father died when he was 56. So in terms of my father's lifetime, what I know today is about what someone can know in one go at this earth. So let me share with you what I have learned about being a Filipino thus far. I was delivered by a public health nurse to parents who were both public school teachers, and I got most of my education from public schools. So I know the power of our government's resources to nurture our lives, create possibilities, and launch exciting futures for individuals, families, communities, and a whole nation. Much later, I would learn how this same power of government over resources can drive us deep into debt, fuel pervasive corruption, and define greed in plunderous proportions. I was born and grew up in the provinces, and my 87-year-old mother still lives in the house where I grew up in Bacolod City. So I know that the Philippines is more than just Makati, more than just Metro Manila, more than just Luzon mainland. I was also a student activist during the first quarter storm in 1970, went underground during martial law, was a civil disobedience organizer after the death of Ninoy, and was a full-time participant during the EDSA People Power Revolution. From there, I know the power of collective action by the people to express their best hopes and pursue their highest aspirations for our country. I was an overseas Filipino worker in Saudi Arabia for 1 year. 5 of my 6 siblings work and live abroad, and I have attended large gatherings of people from my hometown in the province, but gathering in California. So I know that you can take Filipinos out of the Philippines quite easily, but it is, however, impossible to take Philippines out of Filipinos' minds and hearts. I was detained for months under the Marcos dictatorship. My sister was tortured and gave birth while imprisoned at Camp Crame, and many of my high school and college friends died from government-issued bullets. So I know the power of government to exercise force and violence to suppress lawful dissent, although later on I would also learn how the same power can preserve the peace, keep order, and protect progress. On the side, I was a character actor in more than 20 movies and an acting coach to many of the movie stars in the 1980s. I was a favorite actor of directors like Peque Galiaga, Ismael Bernal, Leroy Salvador, and Mario J. de los Reyes, if you can remember them. You can still see some of my movies on cable TV, although I was 20 pounds lighter then. So I know the power of media, culture, and arts to touch our people, excite and inspire them, or lull, distract, or kill them. I served in the government when President Cory assumed office after the People Power Revolution in 1986. I cannot possibly fully describe to you today what I felt then. Here I was, a revolutionary for most of my young adult life up to then, suddenly given a chance to serve in a government I never imagined possible. In my mind, my generation at that time had won political power. How should such power be exercised? I remember that I felt an accelerating sense of vast positive possibilities, which was only tempered by a profound fear of failure and a lurking suspicion that I may eventually judge myself unequal to the great challenges of using political power to change our country. Whatever might have been our limitations then, and we had many limitations, I know that in the post-EDSA government of Cory, our country had the unique chance, for the first time, I believe, of combining the institutional power of government over resources and over force and violence with the cultural power of superior ideas like freedom, democracy, and the good of the whole nation. Suddenly, we had a government that had the power to induce with resources and the power to compel with force, combined with the power to inspire with ideas. I won't waste my time convincing you that we actually did much better in the country after Marcos. This is not the focus of my piece today. Let me just say that in the corner of the woods that I served, which was in the field of public health, the post-Marcos era did really much better. Our country resumed the decline in infant mortality rates that had stagnated in the 80s, increased funding for public hospitals serving the poor, added thousands of new midwives posted in the most remote barangays of the country, and started the increase in the population coverage of such basic care as immunization for children, proper treatment of diarrhea and pneumonia, and effective treatment of TB and malaria that continue to this day. So I know how much difference a good government can make, at least in one area of our people's life. Yet, where have all these wonderful powers gone? Where is the power of the people's collective action? The power of media, culture, and arts to touch our hearts and enlighten our minds. The power of the provinces in addition to the power of the cities. The power of Filipinos all over the world wanting their country to progress. How can these vast powers connect with the institutional powers of government over resources, over force, and over ideas when this same government now is corrupted by greed, by abuses, by lies and deceit? From what I have learned in the 50 years of my life thus far, I offer 3 why nots for you. This is really a bargain, getting 3 challenges for the price of 1. First, why not make our politics an instrument of our best hopes and highest aspirations as a people, instead of what it is today? A celebrity fest devoid of ideas and unconnected with any of our ideals, or a gossip mill of who is in and out and who is doing what to whom, or a telenovela of attacks and counterattacks signifying nothing. We obviously cannot make politics an instrument of our best hopes and highest aspiration if we just leave it to our worst politicians. And the key to making politics serve our people is through elections. So my second why not is to make our elections every 3 years a vessel to carry those hopes and aspirations to political power. I do not think clean and honest elections is enough. I do not think a good COMELEC is enough. I do not even think computerizing elections is enough. These are just ways to make sure people go to a concert without doing something to make sure that good acts will perform in that concert. It's what people vote for on that really matters. And the way to make elections respond to our dreams is to build new organizational structures for successfully competing in elections. So my third why not is, why don't we start creating organizations that will compete during elections on the basis of enduring ideas merely exemplified by the personalities of our times? We can certainly set up a permanent network of people willing and able to serve as leaders and volunteers for electoral campaigns in every locality. These people can vote well ahead of elections to decide on which candidates they will collectively support as a network. We can also establish mechanisms to mobilize mass-based financial contributions to political campaigns that are defined by ideas like public education reform or rural development or environmental sustainability, among others, and then go ahead and support candidates that stand for these goals. And we can do this starting 2010 and continue in every election thereafter, as long as our goals remain compelling and our ideas relevant. I would like to end by providing you a quote from Edward Banfield, who is a political scientist who showed that backward societies remain backward because the families in them are unable to think beyond the interest of the families and therefore are unable to cooperate together. He says, any political system is an accident. It is an accumulation of habits, customs, prejudices, and principles that have survived a long process of trial and error and of ceaseless response to changing circumstances. If the system works well on the whole, it is a lucky accident, the luckiest indeed that can befall a society, for all of the institutions of the society and that its entire character and that of the human types formed within it depend ultimately on the government and the political order. Unfortunately, we Filipinos don't have a lucky accident. But our history need not be our destiny. Why not start the creation of our new lucky accident with new habits, customs, prejudices, and principles that can eventually make our government a more faithful reflection of our best nature as a people? Why not indeed? Thank you.